Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got a ton of information to cover today on the show, starting with the jobs report and some mixed signals as we head into Fed meeting week next week, which we'll break down next. There's also some noise about the clear cooperation rules that NAR has made up that will be taking center stage at an NAR meeting this week. And something people don't think about, the home moving tax. It's not what you think. And there's a ton of opportunities there for agents if you know how to help people navigate the challenges around moving. If you get some value out of this, you'll like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and Sarah specifically, you can do that with the link in the comments. So we've got this Fed meeting coming up. We also saw a 52-week low with interest rates last week, which is excellent news for anybody that's thinking about doing something from a financing or a home purchase perspective. And on top of that, what we have going on right now is that there was an article that came out over the weekend on Housing Wire that a lot of mortgage rates have kind of steadied after this jobs report. I don't know how much you looked at the jobs report, Sarah, but it feels like a lot of people are believing that the 25 basis point cut has already been priced in by the Fed since it's so widely expected. The jobs report, just to give everyone some perspective here, and then Sarah, I want to get your reaction, is that we saw that August payrolls grew by less than expected, 142,000. It was up from 89,000 in July, but below the 161,000 forecast. So payrolls were in below expectation. The unemployment rate ticked down to 4.2%, down from 4.3%. But there's something out there called the real unemployment rate. And this includes discouraged workers and part-time employees, and that's at 7.9%. The highest reading since October of 2021. And there's some mixed signals here. So seeing this and seeing that mortgage rates have steadied a little bit, what do you think the reaction is going to be next week? What do you expect the Fed to do next week now that all the data is in?
I think it's going to be the 25 basis points. And I do think that because we've been, not just us, but that it has been talked about as much as it has been here leading up to it, and that the confidence level has been there that that's going to go through, that certainly it is already kind of baked in. And when it actually happens, we may not see a huge difference there. That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, that looks to be the consensus right now. I mean, if you look at what the CME group predicts, and these numbers, it's so fascinating. Right now, they're at a 67% chance we see a 25 basis point cut next week. And we're going to know in about a little over a week. That was as high as, the number was as high or as low as like a 55% chance just a month or two ago. Or about a month ago, excuse me. So obviously with this data, it looks like the Fed's going to be a little more conservative here. And it's kind of a mixed report, because when you see that, all right, the unemployment rate is down, like the headline unemployment, but then when you get into it, like part-time jobs, discouraged workers, that's the highest since October 2021. That tells me the economy is a little softer than people think. Because, there's so many people that have these part-time jobs, or, think about our business. There's a lot of agents that have these other jobs, and some real estate agents file unemployment when they're not selling homes, which is crazy to me. So right. This is kind of what's been happening. So, this is in line with what a lot of people have expected. And because we're seeing, rates kind of hold steady, I think maybe at the end of the year, lower rates are coming, but maybe you're at like a 6 flat. I think the national average is 6.2 right now. So It looks like we're in this stable territory here, which we've been for most of the year. We've seen some movements, but it hasn't been that volatility we saw last year. So how are your clients reacting to this? Are they talking about lower rates? Because it seems like everyone's talking about it now that the Fed came out and made those comments from Jackson Hole.
Some are. I would say most are kind of happy with just the fact that they've been, relatively stable here. I get a lot of, what do you think is going to happen? Where do you think they're going? But not so much, I haven't heard a ton of I'm going to wait to see them drop down. It's
Okay.
more just like, where do you think it's going? How is that going to impact me?
So how do you answer that question? Because that's what a lot of people ask, right? They want to know your input, and I mean, obviously, they're making big decisions based on this
Yeah.
stuff. So what? How do you answer that, knowing that what we know now and having looked at this economic data pretty closely?
So, I mean, I think I say, you know, it is looked as though there will be a 25 basis point reduction at the next Fed meeting. However, that may already be partially baked into the rates that we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of running, if there's a house that they're interested in, let's run it where it is now. Let's run it if it were to like tick down a little bit, and then let's run it if somehow it goes in the opposite direction
Sure.
a little bit. Because we can't predict exactly where it will go. And, you know, if today's numbers, how much of them have accounted for what they are expecting to happen here next week. So yeah, just, and kind of letting them know that even if they do come down a little bit more, it's not going to be like, I do not predict one of like a plunge, you know, like if you can afford it where it is right now, like we should work with that and not, you know, bird in the hand.
Well,
that a phrase?
I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, because it's not so much just the rate. It's also like finding the house that you want. And what a lot of people tend to get shook up or stuck on is that, hey, well, this house is great, but the rates are just too high and they're going to come down. And the thing people don't realize, and we've seen housing inventory rise substantially, right? So to give some perspective here, and this is where I'm going with this, August 2024 had the highest inventory levels in the country since May of 2020. You remember what was going on May of 2020?
I do.
We got finally opened up. It was like, oh, wow, you can go work again, real estate agents in Pennsylvania. Now, this is national, so it's a little different. When you look at the local numbers, and we don't have the August data yet for Bright MLS, but what we do have is the weekly data that comes out, which I'm clear you should be looking at both, really. You want to see what's happening weekly and monthly. If you look at the weekly data in Bright, so we are seeing the number of active listings is up 19.7% compared to the same week of 2023. And we are also seeing that it's up 4% just compared to a week ago. So that kind of tells you we're coming out of the summer here, and we're seeing that there might be like a mini rally in the fall, which we'll talk about. But if you have inventory coming up and you find the home that you can get, it's really about like what's best for these buyers. Because if it's, let's say they're tied to like a school district, and you want to be in like the certain feeder schools, how many times do you deal with somebody like that?
Right. Yeah. And it's like, there might not be like,
you could be waiting another year to find a home that you like that is going to fit. And if rates do come down, and I think this is really interesting to talk about here, because you think about where rates were last year, right? This time last year, we were getting close to 8.
Yeah.
So that's a refinance opportunity. So those people that bought at a lower number last year, because prices are up 7-8%, specifically, what Bright's talking about here in terms of prices rising, it's a 6.1 increase for the entire Bright MLS service area the same week last year. So you got it at 6% lower. Now you can refinance it, get the same payment that someone buying today is. You just saved a lot of money. So because we're in an area where prices are continuing to rise, it's not the case in most parts of the country. Like Florida, Texas, it's a little different. You're seeing inventories up. You're seeing that rates have settled in. I don't know that I'd be waiting too much longer if you find the right house that's going to work for your household.
Right. Because I mean, there are certainly buyers out there who, there are a lot of homes that could fit what they're looking for, stuff that does pop up frequently, and maybe they're not as tied to a certain area. So you may be out looking at homes every single week. Then you've got others who you might not see them as often, but just because like the homes that they're looking for aren't there. So when you find one that checks all of those boxes, absolutely, you need to think about what would happen and how does that affect me if I don't see another home like this for, 6 months, a year, because it could be the case.
And, you got to look at your situation, right? Like if there's a need to move, let's say somebody's not doing well, you got like a health issue, right? If it's going to get better, great. But if the health issue gets worse, it could be a more challenging situation.
Yeah.
If you've got a growing family, kids are not getting any smaller. I can attest to this. I know for a fact, right? if you're in a situation where you want to, you're like newly engaged and you want to get your life going, that can be a little frustrating for some people. So that it's because of the motivating factors. You've got to look at the pluses and the minuses. Now, at the same time, there was some information that came out on realestatenews.com. This is Stefan Swanpole's website, that the market may be primed for a mini rally this fall because we hit the highest inventory level since May of 2020, according to realorder.com. The 30-year fixed is hit at 52-week low. Mortgage applications ticked up along with touring activity. So, and with this expectation that the Fed may cut rates as inflation comes back to some manageable levels, these are all the ingredients that the market may start moving a bit. So are you feeling that already? Because I mean, you're not one of these agents that just came back like the Tuesday after Labor Day. It's like, oh, I'm back, I'm ready to work. Like you were working pretty aggressively up to that, as was I and a lot of folks on our team. I'm certainly seeing the activity kind of flip a switch.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in the field?
Yeah, I have noticed. I've had more showings in the past like week and a half than I had been having previously. As you look in showing time to book the showings for some of these, it is sometimes depending if it's property specific, but you may not have your pick of whatever day and time you want. Some of them are, you might see one 30-minute slot and that's all that's there for the next 2 days. So you want to take that. So yeah, it's there's definitely been activity out there.
And what a couple people have said. So Danielle Hale, the chief economist at realorder.com, I had the pleasure to chat with her on our Knowledge Brokers podcast. She definitely knows what she's talking about. She came out and said home buyers who have been waiting for rates to drop may find more opportunities in the coming weeks, even if fall is busier than normal. And the boost in activity is unlikely to overwhelm the usual seasonal slowdown. So shoppers who are out this fall are likely to face lower competition than is expected in spring of 2025. And that's really sound advice because a lot of people, they just make this decision. I know you've run into these folks. They're like, I'm waiting until next year. And it's like July or August. Like next year, we got 6 months left. What are we talking about?
Yeah.
That seems to be something that home buyers, home sellers, and real estate agents, they kind of give up on the year after June. And there is going to be, I'm clear, from September until about like December 10th, you're going to have the opportunity to really do some business here. And look, we do business 12 months a year, but there's going to be some opportunity out there, and all the ingredients are here for a little mini rally, which I think is a really great observation by realestatenews.com and a lot of these economic forecasters.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, I want to share this Fannie Mae home price expectation survey because this is something that, tells you what the consumers are thinking. So we know what the economic indicators are, but you need the consumers to be in the decision-making mindset. So the latest home price expectation survey came out, and it does forecast a deceleration in national home price growth over the next 2 years. We saw 6% growth in 2023. And
that national?
That's all national. Yeah, we'll get local here in a second. The expert panel anticipates annual price increases slowing down to 4.7% in 2024 and 3.1% in 2025. And they agree the lack of housing supply remains an issue, estimating 2.8 million homes in terms of a shortage in the U.S. right now. What's your takeaway from this for the clients that tell you they want to wait or they're just unsure about what's going on in the market, whether it's a buyer or a seller, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would bring it down to more local numbers for them because what really matters is what is going on in your neighborhood and, for you locally and how it's actually going to impact either the sale of your home or the purchase of your home. And, predictions get revised frequently for where you think things are headed. And if you're concerned about, I don't know. I mean, like some people do plan things out further than others, but I would say rather than worry about where things may be at 2 years from now, and if that would be the right, possible place to time the market and pop in, it's a lot can change between now and then. And even if the growth and the appreciation and just like home prices go up by smaller ticks than what we have seen, here like over the past year. They're still going up. So you need to factor all of those pieces in, as well as the cost of waiting.
Well, and I think timing the market, I want to clarify this. Timing the market to get like the best possible situation is a recipe for disaster. Now, if your kid's going to high school in 2 years and you want to make a clean break from middle school to high school, and maybe like
Sure.
school, that's a different kind of timing the market.
Yes.
If you know that have got a 2-year contract, I'm going to have a new job
Yep.
somewhere, and I'm going to stay local, but it gives me flexibility to move. That's a different kind of timing the market. So
sure.
what Sarah's not talking about is like life situations. What
Right.
she is talking about is, well, in 2 years, maybe it'll be like the ideal time to buy, and I'll be high-fiving my spouse because we got the best price and we had the lowest rate. That usually doesn't go well.
Right. Right.
And what's interesting is that more Americans now, according to the National Housing Survey by Fannie Mae, think that mortgage rates and home prices will drop. And when they do these surveys, right? So they do a national housing survey. It goes out to a certain amount of households. The net share of consumers who think mortgage rates will go down shot up by 16 percentage points to a new survey high. I do agree. I think rates are going to come down. I don't know that that's off base based on everything we're seeing. There is significantly greater optimism around that. But then there's there's the people that have optimism that home prices are going to come down. And that, to me, that's so regional, right? Like if you're in Florida or Texas, maybe it's a different situation. 65% of people think it was a good time to sell. But it was much less likely in the South at 56%. Midwest was at 70%. West is at 66%. And the Northeast, no surprise, is at 80%, right? And I think that's very intuitive here, because in the Northeast, I feel like our markets are much stronger than what you see down south. I don't think there's any question there. I mean, people are talking about inventory coming to the market. It's still not great. Like, I mean, it's serviceable. So that's something you got to keep in mind here as well. And when you're talking about local stats, I think that's exactly what you need to be what you need to be looking at. So the other thing that came out of this Fannie Mae survey, the vice president and deputy chief economist Mark Palum, he said, despite stretched purchase affordability for most customers, strong price appreciation has persisted, largely due to inadequate supply. And our panelists overwhelmingly agree that there was a fundamental lack of housing in the U.S. relative to underlying demographic factors. So what do you tell people when they're still having inventory concerns? Because that's not going away. I mean, the rates are coming down to a normal level. How do you handle this with consumers when they're having issue with the supply that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes where a buyer initially thinks like, these are all the things I must have, like this is how everything has to be in order for this to be the right move for me. Maybe presenting them with a couple other housing options, maybe, and I get it if you're like already in a school district and you need to stay there, or like there's
tough,
certain things that are like, no, this is where it has to be. But, level of maybe work that you would be willing to do, being able to move into a home that over time, and there's a difference between moving into something that needs to be fully renovated, like before you go in, versus homes where you could slowly over time kind of put some work into it and do some projects. And would it make sense to get into this one now? You can afford it. You've got, maybe it's been on the market for a little bit longer. You can negotiate some different things. And then over the course of the next 2 years, kind of do some little projects or get it to be where you ultimately want it at. Sometimes, because a lot of people, they want the turnkey, and there's so much competition there at that for those homes, and like certainly in certain price points where, just giving them different options and seeing if it could be the right fit. Because oftentimes people actually end up purchasing something that is not what on day one, when you spoke, what they said would be what they would be purchasing.
Historically, that's usually what happens. I think that's a great observation. And, we talk about options in this business. And if you're not giving options of, hey, I'm not sure if this is going to be for you, this home needs a little bit of cosmetic work, but it's got the location you want, it's got the floor plan you want, you may need some sweat equity. And, we've seen that more buyers are open-minded to that. So I totally agree with you there. The survey also highlighted policy reforms that could positively influence housing supply. Expedited construction permitting. Some people believe that speeding up construction permitting would have the most significant impact. I think that could work in some areas, not so much the Northeast, where we don't have a lot of land to build on unless you're getting out to like Lancaster and some of the more rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
Expanded zoning for multifamily housing. I do agree with this. Increasing zoning allowances for multifamily housing developments, especially in the suburban markets. There's so many zoning restrictions on like minimum lot sizes. It's a real challenge. And missing middle housing development. I also agree with this. Enabling more light touch density or missing middle housing options. And I think what they're talking about are like move up properties, not like the premium properties, but the move up or a first time buyer property could help bridge the gap in available housing types. So it'd be nice if someone actually did something about these recommendations. I mean, I think we've suggested all this stuff on the show here, and
So is that for the middle housing section there? Is that talking about new construction?
Yeah, housing development specifically, because any new construction, I mean,
it's all high end.
It's so pricey, and the average new construction sale price is basically over $1 million in the suburbs right now. If you look at the median income in the greater Philadelphia area, and I think this is always, you want to look at the numbers here. So for 2023, median income in the city of Philadelphia was just over $56,000. In the suburbs and the greater Philadelphia area, it was as high as $79,000. And we can break this down all over the place here. The point is, we got two people making that kind of money, right? So let's call it 160. Most people will buy a home that is going to be 4 times their annual income. So if you take that number, it gets you to 640. Our average sale price is about 450 in the marketplace right now. Obviously, that varies from school districts and townships and whatever else. But when the average price is coming in, let's do the math here, Sarah. So 1 million minus 640. So that's coming in $360,000 more, or 56% higher than what they would qualify for. It makes it really tough. Now, good for the builders making money. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not solving the problem, and that's one of the biggest gaps that we have here when it comes to the market. So even though the jobs report was mixed, and it looks like there's more inventory coming and lower rates are coming, these are all good signs. The challenge I see is there's still just not going to be enough inventory no matter what happens. And I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's right. When you look at the new construction, I have seen some that are in like the 5s.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's
what areas are you talking about? Because I think that's really the interesting thing here.
So this was out towards Harleysville. Maybe?
Well, and I think that's my point. It's like a little more rural.
It's
and that's a great place to live, but we're a mile outside Philadelphia right now. Not even, you can't touch that in the suburbs here.
Yeah. When even there, that's like your base price. That's not even where you're actually gonna often end up at. So, you do not see much of that falls into the category that the numbers show most people would be able to actually afford.
Well, and when you think about this, and there's been, we talked about this, we got a debate tonight right in Philadelphia, actually, which is fascinating when we're talking about this. There's more details about this housing plan, and when you look at it, I mean, the plan talks about. Let me get to the points of it here. So it's they talk about trying to improve the affordability for American families with this Kamala Harris Walls plan. But the issue's never clear what's actually going to happen in a deadlocked like Senate and House where they never get anything done. So when they talk about this plan, they have the $25,000 in down payment assistance, $10,000 tax credit for first-time buyers. I mean, that stuff helps, but it's not creating more inventory,
right? Which is
that's the fundamental issue we have here. Affordability is tough because there's not the supply, and so I no matter what they do with this plan, I mean, unless they're like really, and it's got to start with like builder tax incentives, which they talked about, especially for those who build starter homes for first-time buyers. And affordable rental housing, and $40 billion in funding for innovative housing construction. There's just no specifics here, and I think that's the problem. Like, it all sounds good in theory,
but how's any of it going?
And how are they going to affect the local zoning laws? That's the other issue. Is that there's, I mean, you drive out to our office, right? We're in Westchester, plenty of green space around there.
Mm-hmm.
But I know those townships are not going to be okay with like, oh, we're building 100 townhomes here,
right?
Or and even when there are those developments, there's a lot of I mean, you ever drive around Westchester, you see the Save Kirbilly Farms signs? That was
Yes.
that was going to be a housing development,
Yeah.
and now people don't want that to happen.
Right. No, I have seen those.
The same thing happened in Lower Merion when they just built the new middle school. It was the same thing where they were talking about, hey, save the open space, and they built a school there. So I mean, this is the kind of stuff that happens. So the local laws to me are going to be the biggest challenge here with all this affordability. But the good news is, if you can find a house that you want, you got a little bit lower rates, inventory's coming. You have to know that like there's not going to be this like surplus of inventory coming to the market. That's what a lot of consumers need to be aware of.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the clear cooperation policy taking center stage at the NAR meetings. More controversy from NAR. No shocker there. We'll be right back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Great service and great rates on your money. Look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us, it's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976. 1 minute. TomToole.com. That's Tom, Toole with an E.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs. And
I'm logged in clearly, but I don't have it saved somehow.
Call us at 610
You know, it's saved with
8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com.
No, I'll just hit it if we don't worry about it.
Consider a career in real
It's not
estate.
dynamic, so
Pull over your income. Whether you have a
It's about that clear
license or not,
cooperation
call
rule.
us today at 610-696 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
All right, welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about this clear cooperation rule next. We got some NAR meetings coming up. This has been a very controversial policy. And we are also going to be covering in the next segment the home moving tax and the agent opportunities that exist when solving some of those problems. So if you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit on the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and talk to Sarah specifically, because she knows her stuff, you can do that with the link in the comments. So clear cooperation. If you don't recall what this is, the clear cooperation rule is a policy from the National Association of Realtors that requires agents to put their listings into the NAR-affiliated multiple listing service. And the goal was to crack down on pocket listings, which are properties that get marketed privately. And it's been very polarizing. I mean, there's been all kinds of opinions on this. And, some people complain like, who's NAR to tell a seller what to do with their property? Mm-hmm. It goes on and on. So this was a big deal until the NAR settlement happened. Then it kind of went away. Well, now an NAR committee will be considering this week whether the policy needs to change. And it's something that's, it's been a controversial topic for sure. So the NAR meeting's happening in Chicago on Thursday and Friday. I would love to know what they're talking about at this meeting, because they got more pressing issues than this, in my view. Like, are they talking about taking this DOJ investigation to the Supreme Court? Are they talking about how they need better leader? What do you think's on the agenda for the NAR meeting? I just want to get your take on this.
I think the lunch menu.
The lunch menu?
Yeah, I think they're just talking about
bonuses
what they're gonna have for lunch. Yeah.
How can we line our pockets this year? I mean, it's ridiculous. So with that, all kidding aside, there's an advisory board called the Emerging Issues Advisory Board, which is a subgroup of NAR's MLS committee. And it includes 23 members who work as brokers, MLS executives, and in technology. And it's closed to the public. Shocker, right? By the way, I have been trying to get in touch with Bright's board of directors. We talked about how they're restricting data. You know what their response was? We're not giving you the list. We are a paid subscribing member of Bright MLS, and I cannot get in touch with anybody there to tell me who the board of directors is. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. For all of the wanting things to be open and transparent, it's just like it's insane. Yeah, and I'm not surprised that they don't release it and that they're just like, nope.
So here, I'm going to read you this email. We didn't plan to go over this, but to me, it's fascinating what happened. So I was able to find the 2023 board of directors, and I emailed them all about this issue about data sharing, which I don't think is very different. And I reached out to someone who was who's our local liaison. I'm not going to give up any names here. See Bright's response to your request for a roster of their board of directors. I'm happy to share your concern and inquiry and forward it to my contact at Bright for a response. This comes from Anna Johnson, the Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Unfortunately, we're unable to share the board of directors roster with their contact information. What world are we living in that a member cannot get in touch with the board of directors?
Right. Like, why?
I don't understand this. I'm going to be reaching out to this person directly after this because we've got some concerns about their data sharing. It just shows you what goes on with these boards in NAR. It's like we're the members, and it's like, hey, sorry, Sarah. Imagine if you came to me, right? We worked together for a good amount of time now. Hey, I want to talk to Tom. We're not going to give you Tom's contact info.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't think it's that different. Now, obviously, we know each other and we run a very different organization, or you probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Right.
But it's ridiculous. So anyway, let's get back to this closed meeting to the public here about clear cooperation. So there's a couple views on this. So what's happening is they have this committee meeting, and the meeting could have a variety of outcomes. The board could opt to send the issue to the MLS committee for some sort of action. It could also choose to continue to gather information. There's a lot of things that could happen. So, but basically, this clear cooperation rule is going to get reviewed. And here's what the WAVE group. So the WAVE group is WAV. They conducted a survey on clear cooperation. It was from 670 responses from brokerage members, MLS leadership, and MLS staff. And according to a statement on the survey, 28% of respondents recommended keeping the rule as is, while the majority want to change or remove the policy. That's not a small majority. You're looking at almost 3/4.
Right.
I'll get your reaction here in a second, Sarah. Interest in removing the policy completely or making it optional and reworking it differed between MLSs and brokerages. That's not a surprise. That was further reported by the WAVE group. 51% of brokerage respondents recommended removing the policy. 40% of MLS respondents suggested making the policy optional and or reworking the policy. And the predominant that was the predominant answer for MLS leaders and staff was reworking the policy. So what do you think about this reaction here, number one? And then secondly, what do you think about the rule? Like, just give me your reaction here, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's not like that's just like a small number of people. It sounds like most people, to what degree they want it to change might vary, but it sounds like almost everyone wants something to change there. I think if you're a client, so this is talking about like privately bringing people in, not putting it on the MLS and getting it under contract.
Yes.
I mean, I think that if that's what your seller wants, then why not? Typically when you bring it to the market, you're going to get you get more people in, which is going to kind of drive the competition and potentially could have you walk away with either better terms or a higher number. But depending on, who you are, if you want a lot of people coming through your home or not, and maybe just doing something privately on the side. I mean, I think as long as you explain to them, like, this is how it could play out, I don't see a problem with it.
Well, it's the seller's house.
Right.
And that's the problem I have with these rules that are, and if you want to be part of the MLS and be part of NAR, you got to follow their rules. Fine. I get that. It doesn't benefit the consumer, and like the code of ethics that NAR touts out there says you have a duty to consumers, right? And I mean, I think there's some questions there, and it's almost forcing people to use either a non-realtor member or a non-NAR member, or go on their own. That's the challenge with this policy. And and it's funny because the MLS leaders and staff, they want to keep it. You know why? They want everything in the MLS.
Right.
The brokerage respondents who work directly with the consumers, like the MLS doesn't have any consumer interaction, and that's the people that are pushing for this to get removed entirely. Now, 28% of the people recommend keeping the rule as is. That includes brokerage members, MLS leadership, and MLS staff. And it's 40% suggest making it optional or reworking the policy from MLS respondents. But over half, 51% of brokerage respondents recommend removing the policy entirely. So, I mean, that's got to say something here, because they're the ones, they're the people sitting in folks' living rooms, right, meeting with people and talking to them about the options. And even though there's broad support from the NAR board, this has been very polarizing. So,
but this still happens anyway, right? Like,
well, I mean, so there's actually interesting data on this. So there was Jonathan Miller from the president and CEO of Miller Samuel Inc., who tracks pocket listings in LA, where I would argue it probably happens a lot more. I don't have the data on this.
Yeah.
I mean, we see privately sold homes all the time. Like it happens. And there's people that I was working on a listing and for months, and they said, oh, one of our family friends, like a friend of a friend, found out about it. They came to us, they made us an offer.
Right.
We didn't want to deal with it. So that's not a pocket listing, but it's a private sale. The LA market share of pocket listings, and I'm going to try to make this a little bigger here so we can see this. Here we go. So if you look at the chart that they put together here, they have this here, and it goes back to like 2016. So at one point, it said there was 45% of single family and condo properties were, or close to 45%, were part of pocket listings. And that's in Q1 of 2018 and Q3 of 2019. That's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
And this is like all over the place here. So I don't know how it has such variation there, but they've seen a spike, and it's dropped down a good bit to, less than 5% since the end of 2023. When this rule got enacted, back up, when did the rule get enacted? It was in 2019. So, I mean, you saw that right after that, there was a drop, and it's slowly been declining, but then there's another spike at the beginning of the year. And, he pointed out to a softer market because of the mansion tax that's in LA, which is, there's higher, taxes paid on that. So that might be, but he said that it's unclear why there's waning pocket listings. And, some people believe everything should be transparent, others don't. And now apparently, this is one of the reasons why the DOJ's targeted NAR, because it's telling people they don't like this policy.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like whatever NAR does, it just doesn't go well. So, like, I mean, what do you think is going to happen here? I mean, it sounds like they're at least going to talk about it. Do you think there's any revisions to this?
I feel like if that high percent of people are wanting a change, I don't think it's going to completely go away, but I feel like it would make sense to kind of rework it a little bit and do something that works for people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand what the issue is with MLSs fighting their membership. And,
right,
the MLSs, I am clear they do have a lot of power right now, more than they have, because of the NAR settlement, the IDX feeds. They control things. I mean, you look at Bright saying, hey, we're not going to give you the board of directors information. What kind of response is that? I mean,
right,
and they're the second largest in the country. So that's a great example. And a lot of people have some influential people in the marketplace have some opinions about this. So, The Compass CEO, he called the policy as anti-homeowner and a killer of value. Although I think that's pretty hypocritical because they market their Compass coming soons all the time. So it's like, well, we're going to do this, but it's a killer of value and it's anti-homeowner. Those are insane statements to me coming from the Compass CEO.
So does it mean like once it's coming soon, but like prior to it being coming soon, you can privately market it, right?
Just to people in your office.
Just to people in your office.
So, I mean, we have 100 some agents at our company, right? We've got, 50 some on our team, and then there's 50 independent agents. All we could do at RE/MAX Mainline is market within the company. That's it. Right. That's all you're allowed to do, which is silly because we have a franchise model versus like a corporate model. So now it's like you're giving people advantages based on how their companies are set up.
Right.
Because a corporate brokerage, like let's call Compass here, because they're the anti-homeowners and killer of value people, even though they heavily marketed the Compass company. Like it's insane to me that he's saying this. They can do it with anyone in their brokerage because they're a national brokerage. So it's all different how it's set up.
Gotcha.
So and then I mean he calls it forced cooperation and urges NAR to repeal it. Here's some of the other comments. Leo Perea, the CEO of EXP, he came out and said that he believes in organized real estate and how it functions in North America. And we have a complete, accurate, liquid marketplace, which is the beauty of the MLS. So he's kind of supporting this. And then we have, Redfin has come out and made some comments. There's, let's see here, Stephen Brobeck, the Consumer Federation of American Senior Fellows. He said in most instances, it does not benefit sellers or buyers for a broker to only promote listings within their agency, which I agree with. And sellers are likely to receive a lower sale price and buyer choice is restricted to a limited number of properties. I mean, this is all accurate. So I just don't understand why. I get that, sellers have a choice, though, I think is the point.
I think they should, if they want it to be, kind of privately marketed within the brokerage before it hits the market, why not?
And I think that's the whole point. It's no different than saying I'm going to offer compensation to a buyer agent or I'm not going to offer compensation to a buyer agent. So, these policies are inconsistent with the settlement, I think is the main thing. And so I think that's where this could get changed a little bit. And, they one of the reasons why MLSs support it, in my view, is they don't want another piece pulled down from their power that they have over folks. So I think that may be part of this as well. So time will tell here. This should be pretty interesting. I think this is going to get pushed back, and I'll tell you why. And then we can take a break. Because the DOJ doesn't like it, and NAR wants to go all the way to the DOJ, and I think a lot of people want the DOJ to go away. So that could very well be why this gets changed. That's my view, because they've already negotiated some of these things. I don't like the policy. I'm not saying it's right to not have your home on the market. I'm clear that's the best way to get the best price. Let me be very clear. You can't choose for consumers what to do.
Right.
So on that note, we'll take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the move tax, the home move tax. This is very interesting stuff. We'll break it down next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. Screw that.
All the red tape
I was on KYW for a second. It's the first time that's happened.
We have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed.
I can't believe Bright is like not giving me that
We are
information.
here in your community.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ready to serve with fast
They're fucking
settlements,
assholes.
low down payment options, and first-time home buyer programs. Pre-approval is free.
Yeah.
No costs or commitments. For more information,
I'm surprised they don't I get maybe not initially giving you like the highest up persons, but they don't give you like a channel to like at least try to, if you want to battle your way through it to get to the top, you should at least be able to have the chance to do that.
And Mortgage America,
You would
we've been
think.
lending with this philosophy for 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the
Like they used to have it on there. If you Google it.
That's
That's what I was doing the Friday before Labor Day.
As PHFA's number one lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free
So you Google it, they have the 2023 number came up, and then there's like nothing.
I'm Tom Toole,
Oh, wait a minute,
of
I'm
the
gonna-
Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline. If you're thinking
They have, like,
of
newest
becoming a
members, they
real
don't tell you
estate
who's
agent in the
not,
greater
like, it's-
Philly area, I have
Right.
a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30 plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com. Visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at Remax Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Wait 10 seconds. Licensed or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join Tom Toole Sales Group at Remax Main Line.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at Remax Main Line, the #1 Remax team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about the home move tax. It's not what you think. It's about the stress of moving and what it actually does to people outside of the real estate transaction. So we're going to explain that next here. If you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and talk to Sarah about how to avoid the home move tax, you can do that with the link in the comments. So this home move tax, it's not an actual tax. I want to be very clear. Anyone who's bought a home or sold a home recently already knows this isn't something you do in your spare time. Like it is a commitment for sure. Yep. 71% of people say that the buying selling process is like taking on a second job. And I think there's a lot to be said for that here. What you hear that number, Sarah, what's your reaction?
I mean, I can see how people are saying that. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. There's a lot of different people and parties involved, particularly if you are, which most are, getting a loan. There's the whole financial, you do stuff with your real estate agent as you're getting out and searching and getting your offer in. Then once that goes through there, you do have to do a lot. You have to supply documents. You have to, get stuff back to your lender. Then title is going to be reaching out to you for different things. And there's steps. It's not like just this contract gets signed and then that's it.
I agree with you. And that's why real estate agents are still a valuable commodity. And we're not like travel agents, despite what some people think that are very high up in the industry. So let me give you some stats. So on their busiest day, Americans who purchased or sold a home within the last 7 years spent more than a third, 34% of their waking hours working solely on something related to the buying, selling process. You hit on a number of things here, like getting documents together, like getting movers scheduled, contractors, all that stuff. That's a big deal when you realize that 47% of recent home buyers and sellers report having less than 35 hours a week of spare time. I wish I had 35 hours a week of spare time. And that sounds incredible. And more than 1 out of 10, 12% say they don't have any. And this time spent even cut into work, adding up to $430 million worth of work time spent by Americans buying and selling homes. 7 out of 10 survey respondents, 71% say it's like taking on a second job. So here's some of the adjustments. And then what I want to talk about is where a great agent like yourself is able to make that a little easier. So 46% say they needed to take a whole day or days off from work. 40% had to leave work early or come in late. 35% admit to taking time off in the middle of the day. And 13% even took time off without their boss knowing. I don't recommend that. That's not a good practice. And then 59% of people reported missing out on time with loved ones. 43% lost time with family. 37%. Like this stuff, I think it's not as big of a deal, but the work part is big. And so when you hear that, what are some of the things that you do to help people avoid having to miss all this time? Because part of this may be the incompetent agents out there who are causing, buyers and sellers have to do a lot of work on their own.
Right. So I guess if you are a buyer, I guess rather than just having you go out and look at every home, maybe like pre-qualify them a little bit more, find out if there is an offer deadline, if there is, get the disclosures out to them, do the kind of read through. So if there's red flags or things that would make this like a definite no, then your client doesn't have to waste their time getting out there. And kind of giving them like a breakdown of like, hey, this is why I think we should see this one. I know this isn't what you're looking for. Like this property has this that I know was kind of one, like still give them the option to see or not see, but maybe do a little bit of prep work there, digging into it. Part of the nature of our jobs is, being available at off times. So being able to, work with your buyers around their schedule. Now, there will be some homes that come up that like either the times after that they get off work are not available, or there's going to be a decision made before that would be able to happen. And so I think to some degree you may have to miss a little bit of work if you have a job that you can do that with. I also think if you kind of take it head on and, are serious about it from the get-go, you can avoid like months of things dragging out by like being like 1 foot in the door. When you're 1 foot in the door, you're still doing a lot of the stuff, but you're not getting the results. So, really being aggressive when the right one comes up and kind of like picking which ones are worth seeing and not.
What I heard you a lot of what you said there was proper preparation. And one of the things I see coming out of these changes that came August 17th is that home buyers are going to be a lot more prepared for this stuff if they have the right guidance. In most cases, agents don't tell people what to expect. They don't give them the time frame. Or like, hey, you're moving, you need to do X, Y, and Z before we even get out the door. And then they're doing it on the fly. And that's when you end up scrambling and losing this time at work instead of, hey, maybe I'm going to spend next weekend like cleaning out my garage, right? Or I'm going to declutter my basement. That's one of the biggest stressors that's out there. Or I'm going to schedule a call with somebody, because mortgage professionals work on the weekends too. They work at night. Like if you're planning ahead and you have that planning or strategy meeting, that's where you can avoid a lot of this. And good agents are doing that with all of their clients.
Right.
That's it for this week's episode. If you got some value out of this, you'll like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. If you want to follow Sarah, she's on Instagram at Ty_Ty Time. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. And we are streaming live every single week on YouTube. And we'll be back next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. Post a story.